Hi, Healthy Wisdomers. Before we get to the new series on living a stress-free life, I'd like to invite you to join me at Patreon/DRJENCHEN. There are 3 levels of support that you can choose from. Now, why Patreon, you might ask? Well, one of the questions that I kept asking myself over and over was, how can I continue to honor my craft with quality content and better support you, our listeners, to take action and make changes with tangible results? Because ultimately, we got to take action, right? So the answer came as a 3-tier membership with the initial level to access episodes early so that you can continue to build on that momentum and you don't have to wait for the next episode to be released a week later. The mid-tier gives you access to bonus episodes and PDF materials to encourage you to actually apply what you've learned. And at the VIP level, we get to do a deep dive on all the materials presented via a monthly group call where you have access to me and our VIP community for accountability and support. Now, I got to tell you guys, I'm so excited for this opportunity to meet you and work with each and every one of you. And I'm so looking forward to our helping each other live the most remarkable life that we are all meant to have. So hop on over to the Patreon page and we'll see you guys very soon. Hi. Welcome back to another episode on the Healthy Wisdom series with Dr. Jen Jen. Today we're going to start a brand new series, and I call this Living a Stress-Free Life. Now, truthfully, it's really hard to completely cut stress out of our lives, but the more we can minimize it and declutter our lives from the different stressors, that we are encountering and being challenged with every single day, the better we're going to have a chance at a happier, healthier life, right? So this whole 5-part series, we're going to be focusing on that, how to declutter our mind, body, and soul. Wouldn't you guys want to do that? Well, here we go. Now, here's a question. Have you ever wondered how some people can get so many things done in the same 24-hour window? And then you look at your own day, whiz by with only a few things checked off your list, right? I mean, I gotta say, I love checklists. Honestly, like each item that I get to check off, it gives me like that little boost of energy, and I almost always sense that accomplishment, that I've completed something, and I don't know why, like it gives me that adrenaline rush that I kind of crave, knowing that I've completed something, right? And I gotta say, for as long as I remember, I've always had some sort of to-do list. And I would create that for myself on a daily basis. And truthfully, it's evolved over the years to a list of projects, a list of goals, a list of, like, I have a list for everything, honestly. And I would set all these, to-do lists to project lists, and I'd set it out to complete just because, you know, but deep down, it's probably because I'm afraid of running out of time in my life. And for those of you who have been listening since episode 1, you'd recall that I'd shared what my life was like for me at the age of 18 when everyone else was starting, the exciting part of their lives, and I truthfully couldn't even get out of bed for days at a time. And honestly, that was probably how the seed was planted of me wanting to make the most of every single day. And I share this with my patients all the time, truthfully, that every single day that I wake up, I'm so thankful that I get another day to do all the things that I have on my to-do list, because they are all filled with things that I want to accomplish, not just for me, but so that I can make a difference in other people's lives. And I think that really contributes to the excitement, the passion that I bring to the work that I do, to the people that I see, and truthfully, to everybody that I choose to surround myself with, right? So people always ask me, well, how do you get to the you of today, considering what you've been through, right? Like, I mean, how do you get so much energy? Like, why are you so passionate, right? And honestly, like, there's always a little bit of wonder. right? To how I keep adding projects to my list, how I keep learning, and how do I keep growing? Because that's essentially what I do. I always set out to make sure that today was better than yesterday, or today is better than it was yesterday, and that tomorrow will be better than today. I keep striving to make it, I think there was a theory, was it 10% happier? It was a book. And I remember going, wow, 10% happier, eh? I mean, honestly, well, what about 20%? What about 30%? I'm always like one of those keen people to kind of surpass whatever the expectations are. And call me crazy, but if we can do 10% better, I'm always shooting for 20%. And if I start at 20%, I'm always shooting for 30%, And so, as a mom, as a working mom with two vibrant boys, I run a busy chiropractic clinic and I have a growing team of practitioners. So excited about that. And all the while, I'd served 12 years on the board of my profession, right? And so, now that I've added podcasting to my portfolio, it's kind of crazy looking back at all the things that I've accomplished since graduating from chiropractic school. And I have to say, it has been a wild ride. And especially when I think back to when I was 18 and how I had to literally crawl to the door of my bedroom. I mean, it kind of brings, some emotions, just as, I look back to those days. It's so crazy how far we've come. And so looking ahead, my next goal is to finish writing my first book, to which I hope really can bring some light to all those suffering from chronic pain. And this is what this new 5-part series was created to do. It is essentially a snippet of what I share in much more detail in my book, of all the tools, all the things, all the methodologies that I used, that I've implemented in my life to go from drowning in chronic pain to living in harmony. And honestly, I have such a healthy, vibrant life now. I don't even recognize what I had back in the day, because truth to be told, I wake up and I'm still so amazed, at how different my life looks now. So, are you guys ready to walk this journey together and make the next 20 years, because it's been 20 years now, a most harmonious, joyful, remarkable life? You want to make them the best chapters yet, right? Because that's what I've done with the past 20 years. All right, so let's dive in and let's get started with our very first pillar: how to declutter your mind. All right, guys. So, what is one of the biggest things that I have found to be, I would say, the most troubling or the easiest to block, from what we want to do, what we want to be, and what we want to have, right? Our mind is one of those critical components that I think, if we can have some semblance of control over that, and I say some semblance of it because honestly, it's kind of hard to fully control it, because that's probably why the saying of a mind of its own comes from, because you can never really 100% control your mind, because there's two, I guess, components to it. We've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And so, to say that you have control over both of those components is, I think, a little bit arrogant, because it's almost impossible to ever have control over your subconscious mind, right? So I always say, in relative terms, to take as much control of the conscious side of your mind is going to be key to making certain changes in your life. And I think that was basically how my life took a turning point. And today what we're going to do is we're going to share 3 keys of the methodologies, if you want to call it that, the techniques, the tips, whatever you want to call it. Basically, three key areas that I was able to implement a version of actually. So, back in the day when I was 18, I really didn't know what they called it. That's why I say, you call it whatever you like, because I didn't know at the time that's what I was doing. So without realizing it, I had, I guess, this innate sort of instinct to do certain things, and they just happened to work. And in the very recent decade, I've learned that a lot of these things have now a lot of scientific backing. And, a lot of other experts and gurus have actually done a lot of research on them, and they have actually, sort of reintroduce the idea in a more scientific way and in a much more structured way. So without further ado, I gotta say, let's dive right in. All right. So the first one of the three is, and I'm going to dedicate this to Ms. Mel Robbins, because she is the one that actually kind of blew up, this particular rule that she calls the 5-second rule. And she has done a lot of the foundational ground research side of things and introduced it to the masses. So she has written a book about it. I love the book. It really gives you sort of her beginnings of making use of this rule. I personally am continuing to make use of this rule all the time, and it has been honestly a game changer. Not only sometimes do we forget, the beginnings of how we've made changes, but when you start to re-implement them again, you're going to find that, wow, some of the things that you didn't think could be possible are now possible. So crazy as it may be, it's the 5-second rule. Now, for those of you who have not really had the chance to explore what the 5-second rule is, in a nutshell, it's basically counting backwards. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, between two decisions, or three, right? But generally it's two decisions that you have to make. Obviously, one of the decisions will lead to you making your to-do list shorter, right? Meaning you'll get to check off something on your list. And the other decision generally has to do with just chilling out and finding pleasure instead of being completely honest and productive, right? So for example, I could choose to watch TV, right? After the kids go to bed, or I could choose to work on my podcast content. So there are days when, I have had a full day of work at the clinic, and, after putting the kids to bed, I find myself kind of like on the fence there a little bit. And I'm like, okay, so now that I have 2 hours before I'm going to put myself to bed, what do I want to do with those 2 hours? Now, ideally, I should be, okay, let's make the most of this 2 hours. And maybe what we'll do is we'll work on our podcast content, right? So that we can stay ahead and continue to create massive value and creative content for all our listeners here. Or I could just chill out because I've worked so hard all day seeing patients changing their lives, improving their lives, and then, coming home with two amazing kids, but they are very excited to do things with me and to tell me about their day and, to be 120% with the kids. And then finally you get some me time and you're so tempted to just go, okay, you know what? I think I'm just gonna like veg and chill out watching some TV, right? So on those certain weeks where I am not exactly very far ahead on my podcasting recordings, then what I find myself doing is I turn to this 5-second rule. And I gotta say, it has worked time and time again, because before I make my decision final, what I would do is I would count 5, 4, 3,